Happy Media Day and Training Camp Week. Congratulations. We have all officially made it. Well, actually, there's one Sixers player who still has quite not yet made the trip. Today, we will talk about their biggest decision remaining and why the answer might actually be more obvious than it seems. Also, one big piece of news going on around the NBA today, an unfortunate event, but could that affect some situations like this one ongoing right now? We'll talk about all that and more coming up right here on Philly Take with RB, but welcome into the show. If you are new and have joined us recently, welcome to the family. Thank you so much. And if you have been rocking with us, man, make sure you go check out our Tyrese Maxey interview. It is our most recent video on the page. Shout out to Tyrese for coming on the show. It was absolutely awesome. A lot went into it, but man, shout out to the crew. Also, make sure you turn on notifications. A lot of people hit me up and said, yo, I didn't even get to see the interview. It didn't pop up on my page. That's because the YouTube algo has been on one lately, so make sure you turn on that notification bell down below. But ladies and gentlemen, we are 4 days away. Now, originally, Media Day was supposed to be tomorrow, and I was anticipating that, but out of nowhere, on a usual Sixers basis, they switched things up without telling anybody. And now Media Day is set for Friday at 11 a.m. So we will be live streaming that. Make sure to tune in like we do every single year. We'll react to the press conferences, all that and more. Ladies and gentlemen, the question of the day, the question of the last couple of months of really this offseason is, what will happen with Quentin Grimes? And I want you to go down below and drop your prediction. Will they sign him to a multi-year contract this week before training camp? Will they end up agreeing on the one-year qualifying offer? Or will this holdout continue into training camp and into the preseason? Give me your thoughts down below. I'm going to give you mine on the other side, but a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video. Sleeper obviously is a juggernaut when it comes to the fantasy sports world. You probably use them for your fantasy football draft. They're a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat about games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, news, and alerts right at your fingertips. But also, Sleeper's Picks is really cool. All you have to do is choose anywhere from 2 up to 8 of your favorite players and make picks, whether it's pregame, even live during the game, or across multiple sports. You pick the over or under on the predicted stats, and with Sleeper, you can get up to 1,000 times payout if your picks win. So use the promo code PhillyTake on Sleeper and get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. All right, man, let's talk about Quentin Grimes. So I was reading an article here on the Hoops Wire today from Sam Amico, and more of the same. According to Sam Amico, Quentin Grimes is another restricted free agent that's still waiting. There has not been much noise around his talks with the Sixers lately. The Sixers clearly like him, but time is running short. There is a October 1st deadline for the qualifying offer that is looming, and if they don't get it done by then, man, things are really going to get interesting. What will happen with Grimes, though? Because back on June 29th, I put this out on Twitter, and I said that my prediction for this contract would be a total of 4 years, $72 million, 18 per year. Jake Fisher and Mark Stein were reporting that he was projected to land a salary of about $16 million at a minimum. And then we had the reports where Grimes wanted $25 million a year. We saw Cam Thomas take the qualifying offer. We saw Josh Giddey get $25 million a year. And we saw how free agency played out. There's just really not that much money to go around. I've been looking at Quentin Grimes' TikTok, and lately he is just kind of on vacation and just dancing and having fun, not really worrying about this situation. He's leaving it up to his agent. And the 76ers, on the other hand, have been putting out a bunch of social media pictures and videos. Vibes seem to be high. Joel Embiid's practicing. And I said a few weeks ago that I really do not want to enter the territory of another Ben Simmons, James Harden situation where Quentin Grimes is sitting out of training camp. So I think that Daryl Morey and Quentin Grimes' agent have to be on the phone this week talking and either get it done one way or the other. Whether they decide that the one-year qualifying offer is the best option, and then Quentin Grimes can either be traded or test free agency next year and get more money if he has a good year, or whether they take less money per year, sign a 3 to 4 year deal, and then probably end up getting traded anyway down the line as a good trade chip. Quentin Grimes thinks he deserves more money than 10, 12, 14 million, and maybe he does because of the way he played in the second half last year. But at the same time, the 76ers know they have leverage here, and they're not going to budge, especially when they bring in VJ Edgecombe with the third pick, and they have all of these guards on the roster, right? McCain and Maxey, etc. And they're looking at Grimes as being a role player this upcoming year if Joel Embiid and Paul George are healthy. As I said a few weeks ago, the best option at this point might just be to take the 1 year offer. Now, I don't think Grimes' agent would advise him to do that because, again, you're leaving more guaranteed money on the table over the next couple of seasons. But at this point in time, the Sixers and Quentin Grimes have to figure something out because then this thing will start to become a distraction and players will be talking about it. And then you'll see Grimes maybe show up sometimes, maybe not. And then it starts to feel like, what if they get to the season and it's really not settled yet? And then they sign him and then Grimes is not really 100% in it mentally. You know, I think Grimes wants to be in Philly and I think Philly wants Grimes. But at some point, the financial steps in the way, and we've seen that with other situations in the past. So we are 4 days away. And also, I hope they get this done because in the past, the media days have been cluttered by Joel Embiid stuff and James Harden stuff and Ben Simmons stuff. I just want to have a normal media day where we get to really listen to good questions to the players and get to hear their input about the season and not about Quentin Grimes for 90% of it. So what do you think will happen? Let me know down below. What is the best option at this point? Well, here's another interesting wrinkle coming out today. And shout out to the Houston Rockets who had a great year last year. They had a great offseason, right? They get Kevin Durant. Now they have bad news. Fred VanVleet has suffered a torn ACL. This is a devastating, potentially season-ending loss for the Rockets with their starting point guard and leader. Ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely awful. I feel bad for Fred VanVleet. And the Rockets looked like they were going to be a title contender this season. Now, maybe they still will be, right? I mean, they gave up Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. They got Kevin Durant. They have a lot of good young talent on that team as well. But losing Fred VanVleet, like that's one of your leaders, you know? I don't know how he did it, but now looking at the Rockets roster, I mean, guard looks like their weakest position in terms of depth. And now the question becomes, should the Houston Rockets, who look like a really good roster that can compete and contend, but are lacking some guard depth now, go out and make a trade? Should they try to trade Fred VanVleet potentially and get some more depth on their team? Well, according to Keith Smith, they would have to add value in an outgoing trade. They would also have to wait until December 15th to trade Fred VanVleet. And another thing added on here is that they are battling the salary cap restrictions like everybody else. In the Kevin Durant blockbuster trade, they were hard capped at the first apron, so they don't really have a lot of wiggle room at this current point in time. But you think about a guy like Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes is from Houston. He grew up there. He also played at Houston in college. He has obviously been vocal about it before. He loves the area. He loves the team. And the Rockets are going to need guard help at some point this season. It would take a lot of cap logistics to make it work, right? Grimes would have to eventually sign. They would have to wait till later in the NBA season to make this happen. But let's say the Houston Rockets, still need a guard in a couple months. And you look at their draft capital. Yes, they gave up some picks in the KD trade and they gave up Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, but they still have a couple firsts in 2027. They have a first in 2028, a first in 29, 30, 31, 32. So all I'm saying is that they have enough draft capital to move things around and they are not going to wait forever, right? They went all in. They got Kevin Durant. They're going to try to win this season. And if the Quentin Grimes situation still continues to be weird, or let's say he signs, but this thing holds out a little bit more, just keep him as a name in mind down the line when we think about this whole Rocket situation. Maybe they could look elsewhere, and there's still a couple RFAs still available, but it's just a tough break for the Houston Rockets. I mean, with the season getting ready to start in less than a month, There's just no way you can plan for something like this. But in terms of Grimes right now, especially with the Sixers also battling the salary cap, I don't think that Grimes would be traded. I think that the most likely scenario is he ends up taking the one-year qualifying offer and he tests himself this upcoming season. And if he plays well, he gets more money elsewhere. He leaves next season. He gets full freedom. And these Sixers kind of move on, or maybe they trade him during the year and get some value. But nonetheless, it sucks that this situation is playing out the way that it is. But we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. So give me your thoughts down below. What do you think about Quentin Grimes? What is going to happen? How do you feel about the Houston Rockets after this devastating injury? Give me all your thoughts down below. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That being said, I will catch you on the next one. Peace.